Tariff shock continues across the globe. World markets reeling. In the U.S. stock market, you can see it there behind me, not faring much better. The Dow, weak on opening, down more than 1,000 points this morning shortly after it opened, and this is where it stands right now. This is, of course, after President Donald Trump made good on his promise to voters, rolling out tariffs on more than 100 countries. So let's talk about those countries. Here are just some of the nations facing that very stark reality as they started the day today. So let's break down some of those numbers for you. A minimum baseline tariff of 10% on all U.S. trading partners, everybody across the board. And countries currently charging the U.S. more than 10% in tax will be hit with a reciprocal tariff on top of the 10%. That kicks in on April 9th. Still scrolling there, Vietnam will face a reciprocal tariff of 46%, China 34%, Taiwan 32%, South Africa 31%, and India at 27%. So as the markets react, here is the response today from the White House.
There's been a lot of reaction overnight since the announcement and since we all basically were asleep. What is the White House reaction to, as we just had those numbers up, global markets tumbling this morning and futures down sharply?
To anyone on Wall Street this morning, I would say trust in President Trump. This is a president who is doubling down on his proven economic formula from his first term. We saw wages increase. We saw inflation come down. We had a Trump energy boom. We had the largest tax cuts in history. And that's exactly what the president intends to do following his historic announcement yesterday for reciprocal tariffs.
So that's the headline from the White House. Trust in President Trump. So let's bring in CBS News Money Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady. Kelly, that's the message from the White House. But what are economists saying today?
Well, it's good to be with you, Reed. Look, economists are saying that these tariffs could cause higher prices, so that would result in more inflation. It could cause more consumer anxiety. We've definitely seen that brewing when it comes to tariffs and inflation already over the past few months. And it could cause consumers to pull back on spending. And I highlight that because 2/3 of our GDP here in the U.S. is driven by consumer spending. So when that sees a pullback, that's where you start to see slowing economic growth. So that's kind of one picture of it. That's more the downsides. Economists are also telling me that bringing manufacturing here would be a good thing. It's just that it's going to take a number of years for all of that to be implemented. And so, yes, having a domestic supply chain would have been fantastic during COVID, if you remember that supply chain crisis, but it just takes time. The thing that you have to remember about tariffs is that nothing in the economy happens in a vacuum. So we're talking about the impact of tariffs on prices and all of these different things, but you're also going to potentially have other policies like tax breaks for corporations or less regulation. And it's really going to be about how all of these different economic dynamics play into each other of how this really impacts the economy in the long run, Reed.
Kelly, I'm also watching American companies, and I'm seeing a lot of stock down, especially for tech companies. What are you seeing? What's standing out for you?
Yeah, I think everyone that is also watching their 401k is watching tech stocks, and I highlight that because tech drives so much of the S&P 500, and 401ks tend to be invested at least pretty heavily in some funds that track the S&P 500. So when tech is down, the S&P 500 is down, and the 401ks take a hit. The tech stocks are taking a hit because a lot of tech companies rely on production in China. Think about Apple and your iPhone. Think about NVIDIA. A lot of the semiconductor chips that they are famous for that drive the AI revolution are made in Taiwan. And so tech is really going to take a hit unless they are able to reshore some of that production.
Yeah, I know a lot of people in Silicon Valley are also watching Google, Meta, things like that. So, Kelly, this is widely by many places being called a trade war, at least approaching a trade war by definition. But we know that wars can call a truce. They can end. Can President Trump just turn this around and renegotiate? What do you see there?
Absolutely. And frankly, there are a lot of analysts right now that are looking at the fact that these reciprocal tariffs don't go into effect until next week. And that we've heard that the White House is going to be talking to members of the European Union at the end of this week, that this could all be somewhat of a negotiation in order to negotiate better trade deals. But you could also see other countries decide to retaliate and decide to strengthen their trade relationships with each other and try to leave the U.S. out. And in fact, Reed, I just got an email from our CBS News team that Canada is imposing 25% tariffs on cars that are not covered under that important trade agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. So it's basically doing what we're doing to them. And so when you start to see that tit-for-tat retaliation, that gets you further away from a negotiation, Reed.
Kelly O'Grady, gold standard coverage because it matters. You nudge us a little further to the truth every time you're on the screen. It's an honor to share the time with you. Thank you so much, my friend. By the way, you can check out our tariff price tracker at cbsnews.com/tariff. So, for how all of this is playing out over at the White House, there are political ramifications potentially as well. We go to CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman. Willie, walk us through how the White House is seeing these numbers. We saw that soundbite from Caroline Leavitt on CNN today talking about this, saying, trust President Trump. Is that the message you're hearing there as well?
Yeah, Reed, the White House is full steam ahead with these tariffs, and this has been a part of the president's plan all along. He's telegraphed that he would be able to bring back manufacturing with the help of placing these tariffs on trading partners, trading foes, and allies around the world. But that's not necessarily a clear pathway to bring back manufacturing. It's not promised to us, right? But the administration is explaining these numbers, essentially throwing in there currency manipulation and trade barriers. I'll point out that 67% rate that the U.S. Claims that China charges on U.S. products being exported to that country. That's how they came up with these numbers. And they put on these reciprocal tariffs saying that we're going to charge half of what these nations charge us. So 34% for China, and you see some of the rates there on your screen for other nations around the world. But the White House, they are saying that this will not only help the nation raise funds, billions of dollars worth of funds, including those auto tariffs that go into effect today. This will help the economy. That's the White House line, that they'll be able to bring back that manufacturing that has really suffered here in this country, bring that back to the United States. But as I mentioned, it's not necessarily a clear path forward for that. Oftentimes it takes years to get factories online to produce those goods here at home.
All right, another question. We saw that scrolling list of countries who are impacted by these tariffs, but we are also aware that some countries were left off of that list. Tell us what you know.
Yeah, that's right. Some of the nation's key trading partners, Canada and Mexico to be specific, the reason why they were left off this list is because those tariffs in response to the fentanyl crisis and the immigration crisis the Trump administration has pointed out are already in place. Some other nations that were left off of this list as well include Russia, North Korea, Cuba, and Belarus. Those nations already face sanctions. So the thinking behind this here is that they already face sanctions. There's not necessarily a large trading exchange with those nations. So no need to necessarily put these tariffs on those nations that I listed there.
And yet we are seeing that news that Kelly O'Grady just broke a minute ago, saying Canada is now announcing that 25% reciprocal tariff. So that could also influence our dinner time headlines. Let's talk about companies. What are you hearing from companies? We know what countries are starting to say. What about companies?
Yeah, let's focus on the auto companies in particular. VW America, Volkswagen, of course, is a German automaker, but they have operations here in the United States. They're already saying that they're halting shipments coming from Mexico. They're also talking to some of their dealers about putting a line on that sticker price that when you go to buy a car, you can see the price and how it's affecting, how tariffs affect that price. That's something that VW America is doing. Stellantis has announced temporary layoffs at a factory in Canada and a factory in Mexico as well, pausing productions at those facilities. But on the other side of this, Ford and GM, not necessarily any major changes for them, but Ford is announcing a pricing change, offering employee pricing for buyers, perhaps in response to these tariff prices that we're seeing. Remember, President Trump just this past weekend said in regards to the 25% tariffs on foreign automakers. He could care less if the prices of those foreign cars were raised because he alluded to it helping American car companies. So we're perhaps seeing the results of that here play out in real time, Reed.
So much to talk about. CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman, always great to talk to you as well. We know you will have your running shoes on today, chasing a lot of headlines. Thank you so much.